out here. Okay, since we all know each other, we'll just jump right into it, Randy. This is about understanding short sales and it's interactive. So Jennifer, anybody who has questions, please jump in and ask questions.
Yes, we'll make this as informal and hopefully, it's information, right? And sometimes presenting just information can be a little boring. So hopefully we'll interact and as questions come up. And luckily, we have Jennifer who is right in the middle of a short sale. So
luckily, she's not thinking luckily.
no. No. And there's a lesson in that too. So
learning a lot.
yes, and we'll talk about that. We have two agents in our group currently as listing agents in short sales. Last night I had an agent call me representing a buyer and they were looking at a short sale. So short sales are with us. They're happening. And so let's I'll share my screen here and we'll get started. But
Randy, before you start, I wanted to tell you I'm a little bit confused because if you listen to the news, particularly keeping matters current and some 2 or 3 other sources, they are downplaying any kind of foreclosure data. They say it's very low, it's not going to happen, etc., etc. And yet, I get the sense that there's more foreclosures today than there was 6 months ago, 3 months ago?
yes.
What is your perception?
And so a couple things. I don't know if they're comparing foreclosures to 2008 through 10, 11, 12, when it was a literal meltdown in the financial market. We will not see that ever. I should never say never, right? But I don't think that when that meltdown and that mortgage crisis came, the banks weren't prepared for it. And they didn't have the process, the resources. It was an all-out free-for-all. We won't see that. I don't know if they're comparing it to that or what they're comparing it to.
That's a good point, Randy. And I don't think I noticed what time frame they were talking about. But we're seeing more than we did 3 months ago, 4 months ago. We are ticking upward.
And so what we're seeing is the actual, you won't see a short sale being, you can't, I guess the MLS, you might be able to follow amount of short sales, but what you can track, because it's public notice, is notice of defaults showing that homeowners are behind in their house payments. So once the homeowner, will go through this, but that's public record, so you can track the volume of that, and those are going up.
And where do you see that kind of information, the public record?
Title company. They will, you could work with your sales rep and ask to get a list of the notice of defaults in a zip code or city or area, and they will send you a weekly list. And so
that's a good source of leads.
Yes, and we'll talk a little bit about that. There's the ability to help your clients, right, and be a resource to your clients that are financially going through some difficult times for whatever reason, helping them navigate to stay out of a short sale or a foreclosure. But if that isn't the case and they have to navigate through that, at least having just kind of a basic understanding of what the process is and what that means is kind of the idea of this class. And then at the end, we can talk to how would you market to that group of people so you can reach out and help them. And I do think it's a niche to help clients. And I got started in real estate. I wasn't licensed. I was an investor, and I had a couple investors that had the money. I had the knowledge and the time to research these foreclosures. I would go out, find the foreclosures, negotiate with the homeowners, come up with a fair market price for what I felt we could buy it for, fix it up and resell it. And that literally is how I got started in real estate.
When was that, Randy?
This was in the 90s, many years ago, before the internet. So I'd go to the courthouse because there wasn't any public. I'd go to the courthouse where the foreclosures were filed, and I'd literally go in and look them up on a microfiche. So, but the good news is, because it was hard, very few people were doing it. And so what happened was, over time, homeowners were getting first, second, and sometimes even third mortgages. They kept refinancing, pulling out their equity. They were living off their equity. And then when that caught up with them, but as a foreclosure, as an investor, there was no equity. They were going to foreclosure, but they had every loan, every amount of their equity in loans. So this was probably early 2000s. Investors started going to the lenders, a second or third lender, and negotiating that loan, saying, hey, this is going to go to foreclosure. It's very likely you're going to lose everything. Would you take X amount of money? So we were negotiating short sales, not calling it a short sale, but that's how we were making foreclosures work. Literally, we were writing in our equity, our profit, and we would go to the lender that was in second or third position and negotiate that amount. And then, 5-6 years later, really, when the short sales really hit the market, and then, that process until today, it's much, much better because there are so many resources for homeowners. The government does not want you to lose your home. So they've come up with ways to help. And we'll go through that today, and how you can help your clients and the resources that are available to them. So we'll talk a little bit about short sales. We'll also talk about, as a listing agent, how you would proceed with the homeowner, and look at it from a buyer's perspective, and how you would protect a buyer going through contracts, because there's some ramifications as a buyer, and you need to know kind of the process of how long it takes to actually negotiate and close on a home. So homeowners are going to face financial hardship for whatever reason that life event comes to them. A short sale that happens when, if the mortgage is either they've leveraged their mortgage, something either physically to the house deteriorated the house, the market has changed, where when they sell the home, there's not enough funds to pay off all the liens. And so that is a short sale. A real estate owned is a home that either the homeowner didn't try to do a short sale, they weren't successful in the short sale, the bank filed foreclosure on them, notice of default, it went to auction, and nobody at the courthouse bid on the home. So there wasn't a successful bidder. And that is legally how the bank can take possession and ownership of the home, is to go through the foreclosure process. And so we'll talk about that. eXp has a real estate owned department. You can get certified in real estate owned homes. And then that's when the bank brings them back to, to the market, and has real estate agents market them. A foreclosure is the legal way for banks to take back the home. When you sign loan documents, most loans are trustee sales. You're signing over a deed of trust, saying you agree, if you fall behind in your house payments, to allow the bank to foreclose on you and auction the home. So it's you've signed the loan documents agreeing to this when you sign your loan papers. There are two types of foreclosures: the non-judicial, which is a trustee sale, and a judicial. And really, the big difference is a lender will have to, on a judicial, they have to go to court and then go through the proceeding, and then the court allows them to start the foreclosure procedure. There is some redemption periods on a judicial foreclosure where the homeowner, even after the sale, if they were to be able to get the funds, can buy the home back. So much more complicated for banks. That's why you see almost all mortgages, they're trustee sales. You're going to sign a deed of trust when you purchase your home. So today it is much different, and because of the meltdown in the financial markets and mortgages, the banks have now, if you start falling behind in your payments, your clients, their banks are going to reach out to you in multiple ways to try to help you. They want to help you. They want to keep you in their home. So they will have a resolution department that is going to reach out to you and try to figure out where you are in your situation. You know, is this a temporary thing? Can we postpone or help you with your mortgages for a period of time? Can we put the past payments behind at the end of the mortgage? They're going to find a way to try to help that client, your client. If they can't, or the homeowner doesn't want to, and you will find in a lot of foreclosures, unfortunately, the homeowner isn't returning phone calls. They're just ignoring it for whatever reason. Many of the foreclosures are homeowners that just haven't responded for the help that's been offered to them. And once that happens, they do start the notice of default, and it's usually a 4-month period of time. Some states will say, hey, you're falling behind. Here's a public notice, official notice. You're in default. Contact us. We want to help you. And then if they don't hear from them, then the next step is, all right, here's the notice of default. We're starting legal proceedings to be able to take the home back from you. And so in that period of time where the notice of default has been delivered to the homeowner can, within that 120 days period of time, can come up with the money of their back payments and whatever the trustee, the attorneys have added to their fees. So you can still take your home out of foreclosure all the way up to, usually each state is a little bit different, but all the way up to probably 5 to 10 days prior to the sale, the auction date. You can just make your back payments, stop the foreclosure, and you're back on your feet. After that 5 to 10 days when it's going to sale, then you have to either pay off the note or it's going to go to sale. So a sale is a public auction. It's going to be at the courthouse. It's been legally advertised, notified people, the public knows about it. And the way that works in a public auction is the bank is legally obligated to set the minimum bid at what they're owed. So if by chance the home is worth much more than the mortgage and the attorney fees and the processing fees of what the foreclosure started, they can only auction it at what the bank is legally owed. And that's why you will see investors come to the courthouse to bid on homes, because there's enough equity that, you know, it's worth it to them to buy at the courthouse. If just use a $200,000 mortgage, the auction goes to $250,000. That $50,000 goes back to the homeowner. So it's the debt goes to the lender, and then the new successful bidder gets the home. The difference, if that does get bid over the mortgage, will go to the homeowner. If there is no successful bidder, that's when the bank takes ownership and it becomes an REO property. So that's kind of the steps in foreclosures. As an investor, when you do buy a home, if there's homeowners or renters in there, they lose that ability to be a renter and be evicted. The courts you've got 10 to 15 days and you have to be out of the house. And so it is easier for an investor, if you've bought the home at foreclosure, to evict the homeowner. Typically, most people understand these are hard times and they try to work with the homeowner, either help them with moving, put them in a, help them with first or last, something to, one, keep the house intact and just have some compassion for the people who are just lost their house. But it's up to the individual.
Randy, I have a question.
Yes.
Is that when, say an investor does take the home and you've got this short amount of time before they have to be out, is that when a sheriff delivers a notice to them, or who does that?
Well, you as a new homeowner, new investor, you give notice. However you decide to do that, I would just go to their home and tell. And just personally, I tried and I would send letters, up to 7 letters when I was doing this, to the homeowner saying, look, I want to help you. If you aren't going to keep your home, I can help you stop foreclosure. Get a hold of me. And I would offer first and last, I'd offer moving, I'd offer just call me and see if there's something we can do for you. Multiple times I would buy it at the courthouse steps, and then I'd have to put a notice. And these usually were not, they wouldn't answer the door, they wouldn't answer their phone, they just were ignoring it. And when I would finally put a notice on their door saying, look, I'm now the homeowner, you're going to have to move out, please call me so I can help you. And then they would call, right? And so, and I would ask, why now and not a month ago? And they just were like, I don't know, I just buried my head. It's very common. And a lot of times it was addiction, and so, but that, they don't have, they can't, say, well, you haven't given me proper notice. That's all out the window. So if you do have to file an eviction, it's just accelerated, and that's when the sheriff does get involved. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. But it's usually not a good circumstance when you're having to evict,
No.
and actually physically remove them. So
yeah, and so as an investor in foreclosures and as a homeowner that rented homes, the evictions that I had the hardest time with were my renters. The people who were losing their home because of foreclosure, they knew what was happening, right? They understood, and they had 3 to 4 months. They didn't respond to anybody, but in their mind, they did know that the end was coming. And I never had any problem, but I always offered to help them, either first or last, or bring in movers, or I tried to do what I could to make that where it wasn't them against us, right? We were there to help them. And then renters, there are professional renters that will take advantage of landlords. And you learn quickly that, unfortunately, the first time you tell somebody that says, hey, I'm going to be a little late on my rent this month, and they give you a sad story and you say, yeah, that's okay, I understand. Well, the ones that have bad intentions, that's the start. And then you have to end up evicting and going through the process. But I have found that those in foreclosure have been the easier ones to.
well, I think too, because they're so ill-informed, they don't know what their options are. So that's where, we can go in and help give them options. But I remember back in 08 to 10, it was, there were some scary times when people just stopped paying and hunkered in, and,
And a lot has been learned from that, right? Because there were a lot of angry homeowners that were losing their home, and they were literally stripping everything out of their home. They were taking appliances, the window fixtures, the doors, the cabinets. they were stripping these homes and
Mhm.
destroying them. So now the banks will offer them help to move out as long as they don't destroy the home. And there's a value in that. And as an investor buying one, there's value in that. But they did learn. And the counseling and the resources and the banks are much more apt now to roll whatever. If say there's a life event and they just missed 3, 4, 5, 6 months of payments, but they have their job back or they got a new job or whatever in life, they can now afford the house payment. The banks will work with them often and just roll that into the end of the loan, or they'll work with them in some manner. They want them to be in the home. So let's talk about a short sale. And so a couple things. One, a short sale, the equity in the home has to not be there for them to sell it as a normal sale. But they also have to be financially, they don't have the means to bring the extra cash to closing. And so if the homeowner does want to keep their home and stay in their home, there are solutions, there are ways that the banks will help them. And so, number one, if you have the ability and the interest rate and the market is shifted where interest rates are lower, refinancing for sure. But you can work with the lender. The lender is going to call you and send mailings to you and even certified mail, trying to get your attention is we want to help you, contact us, let's work something out. So from loan modifications where they may change the interest rate, they may change the term. Say you've got 5 years already in your loan, they may take it into another 30-year loan. If they can help reduce the payments or make it so you can continue to stay in your home and make your payments. They will try to modify it for you if they can, and you show the financial means to be able to make the payments.
Randy, I have a question.
Yes.
I remember the Dodd-Frank bill came out. Did it have anything to do with any of these workouts, and what was that about?
Well, the Dodd-Frank, don't quote me on this, but the Dodd-Frank had a lot to do with why we got into foreclosures. It's
Okay.
because the Dodd-Frank wanted people to be able to afford a home or be in a home.
Mm-hmm.
And so they reduced the qualifications to get into a home because their whole idea is, hey, everybody should be a homeowner. Well, not everybody was ready to be a homeowner. And they literally were selling what the mortgage industry called liar loans. You literally didn't have to have a job. You didn't have to provide income statements.
There was a lot of predatory lending practices.
Horrible. And so it worked for a while because it pushed home prices up so fast, and everybody was just refinancing, pulling out equity to keep paying for their mortgage. People literally were buying homes that they could not afford from day one. It wasn't that they fell into financial hardship. They bought the home already not being able to afford the home. So anyways, I think that had more to do with the Dodd-Frank bill, but there are many bills and many things that the government has done now to help homeowners. So your clients come into financial hardship and they need to sell the home. They don't have the cash, the home value, the equity isn't there. A couple things they can do is if they do have something they can sell to bring the difference in their equity and their mortgage amount, that's an option. You can bring cash to close and then you're awash, right? It's just as a normal sale. Nothing changes on your credit. It's just a normal sale. You can sign your deed back to the bank if the bank will accept and allow you to do that. Some of the reasons banks will allow that is they feel that there's enough equity. Maybe they don't feel that they can sell it. It's going to be cheaper for them just to take the home now than to go through the whole process. Usually they'll do that when they think that their home is, the value of the home isn't going to sell at auction. Go ahead.
Randy, a question, in that case, would the bank, would they forgive the loan? I mean, or does this go on the homeowner's credit as a foreclosure?
If you do a deed in lieu of foreclosure, it will show, it will hurt your credit for sure, because you're giving you're not satisfying the loan
What's it called? A deed in lieu?
of foreclosure. You're literally just signing the deed back to the bank and giving them. So the bank, the way the bank takes legal ownership is through the foreclosure process. So you're just telling the bank, hey, you can skip all that. You don't have to file all the notices. I'll just give you the home. And the banks don't always do that. It's just, that's an option. And then the other, what we're going to talk more about is the short sale, where the bank is going to accept less than what they are owed. And they have a formula of what it costs to foreclose, what it costs to take the home back. And because of that, it's financially better for them to take less now than let the home go vacant, take the ownership, have to manage the home, fix it up if it needs to be fixed up, and then the cost to sell it on the open market. So all of that factors into what they will take, how much they'll take less in a short sale. And then last is you just walk away from the property and the bank will then foreclose on it. And that will have the most significant impact on a home seller's credit. So now we'll talk about, somebody's come to you as a real estate agent and they want to sell their home, and you realize either in the conversation or they know that the market has changed where they're going to not be able to pay off the mortgage and closing costs with the sale of their home. So an important to note, in both Oregon and Washington are non-recourse states, meaning that if the short sale is in the end is $20,000 less than what is owed on the mortgage, the bank's going to write that off. They're not going to be able to come back to you at a later time and try to collect that $20,000 or whatever the default is. So it's important to note that if it's a recourse or non-recourse loan, often seconds lines of credit are recourse loans. So it's something, to look into when you're counseling your clients. Is it a recourse or non-recourse loans? First mortgages in Washington and Oregon are non-recourse. Another thing that really came out of that 2008 to 2012 is it used to be that if you were $20,000 short on your mortgage, the lender wrote off the $20,000, but the IRS would look at that as $20,000 as a tax bill for you as, and I found this, but I would highly recommend that when you're working with clients, that you want to be sure that there is this QPRI exclusion that is stopping them from having to pay that IRS bill. And it says it was extended to January of 2026. But, and we'll talk about when you get an acceptance letter from the lender, you want to make sure that these things are written into the acceptance, that it is non-recourse. They're not going to go after the homeowner. And then I have some resources at the end of this that will give you some people to contact and to help the client. I would make sure and talk to a tax person that they are not going to be subject to that tax consequence. So when you meet with the homeowner and you realize that, hey, the market shifted, you're going to sell your home at a loss. You want to go through really a workout sheet with them. I have one attached at the end of this as an example. You want to make sure, one, they are truly in a financial hardship, that they can't afford, they don't have other means to come up to pay the mortgage. So they have to qualify. As you're qualifying for a loan, you have to prove to the bank that you truly are in a financial hardship. And so one, you want to have that conversation with them. Do they have other assets? Do they have other means or savings? Your retirement is excluded, so you don't have to show your retirement assets, but you do have to show other assets and prove that you truly cannot financially afford to pay off the mortgage.
Can I ask a question, Randy?
Yes.
Might be jumping the gun, but at what point do you have to disclose and talk about distressed homeowner?
To who?
Well, in our somewhere in our paperwork, it talks about distressed homeowner, and that's truly what this is. So where is that? Is that the purchase?
That would be, well, when you list it, you're going to want to disclose that.
That's what I thought. And
Yeah.
where would that? Yeah, and at what point do we do that in the actual listing?
In the actual listing.
Okay.
Yeah. You do have to disclose that that is a short sale, because there are, and we'll go through, there are some challenges that the buyer is going to face. And depending on where they are in the short sale, they could be really significant challenges. You do want to look at and pull a title report, open escrow, because you don't know, there could be other liens, and maybe they don't even know there's other liens or judgments on the property. And so those have to be satisfied in some manner as well. So the short sale has to be, everybody that has a lien on the property has to agree to take less or be their lien be satisfied. In the case of the IRS, often, well, I shouldn't say often, but possible, if they have other assets, they'll move the lien to another property that will secure the IRS.
Randy,
Yes.
does that become our responsibility as the listing agent to speak to all of those lien holders? What is the process of that? Because that's what I'm running against. There's 3 liens now, basically. There's the loan, there's the down payment, which was a Washington bond. And then there's, I don't know if you consider this 3 or 4, but there's a large assessment, and there is, then there are the late fees and the fines for not paying the assessment or the dues for the HOA. So we are quickly, and now I know HUD pays, they will pay up to 12 months of dues, but they will not pay fines. They will not pay assessments. And so how do we reconcile that? You know, it's kind of where
That's
we're
a great question. And
Man, you don't just have a short sale, you have like a short sale with all the
but this is
on
very,
steroids.
unfortunately, this is very common, because when people come into financial hardship, a lot of times that's not their only bill or their only hardship. And it didn't come overnight. It's kind of slowly, they started missing payments, missing paying dues, missing, you know, or maybe they had somebody come in to do something on their home. They put a lien on it because they didn't get paid. So ideally, if the homeowner can call and negotiate with them, that's the best, because they're the responsible one. Often they've checked out mentally, emotionally, they've checked out. If you can get, you have to get an authorization to release information most of the time for that party to talk to you on the client, on your client's behalf. But then it's up to you if you want, you know, you would have to just call and try to negotiate.
Can we do that? I mean, can we do that? Is that in our pay grade, honestly?
Well, it's, and you have to decide that. And this is really the pre-listing workout. That's why you want to find out as much, do as much research as far as how many liens do you have? Because each lien is going to be a negotiation. What is their financial situation? How much cooperation are they going to do? Because they have to, basically, it's almost like a loan application. They have to show on this side that financially they cannot perform. But they have to get their paycheck stubs, their tax returns, whatever their assets are, and they have to submit those to the lender. And so you're going to be really in charge of making sure all of that gets done. And so, one, when you think about what am I going to list this home for? What is the commission I'm going to charge? I think the government, every loan's going to be different, every negotiation is going to be different, but I think 6% is they are still willing to pay 6% in a government-backed loan. And we'll get into that, because if they don't, you need to protect yourself. But I would not, if it was me, I would not be doing discount or, this no going in. This, you're going to at least double. Would you say, Jennifer?
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's going to be at least double and much more emotional. You're helping somebody that there's no gain for them, really. It's right on the line of them saying, I just walk away from this. I don't even want to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
There is some benefits to them and their credit and how soon they can get back on their feet and buy a home doing a short sale. But at the same time, those are, before you even start the listing process, these are things you're going to really want to have a discussion with the homeowner. And then to add to that, often the reason people are in financial hardship is they're in a divorce. And then you've got two people that don't want to talk to each other, but you need cooperation from both of them. So now you're also a counselor. So kind of to the financial hardship part, just because your home has went down in value, things have changed in your life, you can't just walk away from the home. I mean, you can, that's a foreclosure, right? But as far as getting the bank to help you accept a short sale, you truly do have to prove that you've come into a financial hardship. Okay, so you've decided that you do want to go through and help these people and you do want to list their home. One more thing you want to verify, has the foreclosure process started? So maybe they waited too long to contact you. They do have decided they do want to do a short sale, but they've already been sent a notice of default. That timeline has started. The banks will not stop the process of a foreclosure if it has started just because you listed their home. So it's important to know that, okay, do I have, the time that I need to bring in a buyer? And so, again, just realize the listing is going to be much more work than a normal listing, and make sure you think of that when you decide which commission, what you're going to charge. You will use the same listing agreement forms. There is a short sale addendum that you'll use from your MLS, and that will help with disclosures and timelines. One thing that I would recommend or really encourage is you set your commission. You put a buyer's agent commission in the MLS. You need to put that commission is subject to lender approval, because the lender might, especially if there's more than one lender, the lender might say, we'll pay X amount towards real estate commissions. And if you've offered 2.5% to a buyer's agent and that X amount doesn't cover that 2.5%, you have a contract with them that you're going to pay their commission. You're obligated to that commission unless you put in there that it's subject to the lender's approval, and that I would put that it's going to be reduced proportionally to however you've listed the home. as far as listing agent portion, buyer agent portion. But I would put that in there. I would put it in the seller's agent private remarks, and I would put that probably in an addendum. So just beware that the lender is not obligated, especially in the government-backed loans. They are paying agents commissions. They want your help and understand your role in this, but just know that they could negotiate your commission in their payoffs. So once you go through, say, all right, I'm going to list the home. You've went through the listing. You're going to contact the lender. You're going to have the seller, your clients contact the lender and get an authorization to release form. And that's really the first step that you want to take, because you need to be able to communicate with the lender and their processor to navigate through this sale. And they have to have on file the seller has given you authorization so they can talk about their financial situation. So step one, a lot of times the lender will have that on their website. You can download it without making any phone calls, have them fill that out, and then you'll send that in. Then you can start the communication, let them know. And this is if they haven't already went through the counseling, and they just haven't did anything with the lender. Sometimes through counseling, all of this has already taken place, but if it hasn't, know that you cannot communicate with the lender on their behalf without that authorization to release form. They will have the financial documents that the seller needs to fill out to be able to prove their financial hardship. The homeowner will need to write a hardship letter. Just basically a brief explanation of why they're in the position they are and asking for help. And basically saying, hey, I want to cooperate. Here's the situation. Here's what's happened to us. And we're asking for cooperation in a short sale. But they will ask for a hardship letter. You don't want to go into a lot of detail and put in too much information, but you do want to have the homeowner know that they need to write a hardship letter. There's a lot of examples on the internet for hardship letters, and I think ChatGPT would probably be able to help with them as well. Okay, so how do you list a home that's in a short sale? You want to get comparables, and you want to be able to prove your point to the lender. The lender is going to send out usually one of us, another agent, to do a broker price opinion to give the lender an idea of what the market value of the home is. But you're going to have they don't go inside the home. You're going to be able to, do a physical walkthrough of the home, and you're going to mark or list the home, one, based on its current condition, what it's worth as it is, but also with the understanding that there has to be incentive for a home buyer to buy a home that's in a short sale, because there's a lot of hurdles that have to be met before the lender will approve the short sale. And the buyer doesn't know how long that's going to be. There has to be some benefit to a home buyer to want to buy a short sale versus another home in the same area that matches that home. So like homes, a short sale should be marketed at a lower price. I think it's important to take pictures of damage to the home, get contractors to come in if you can, and get bids of what it would take to repair the damage, and then you will submit that with the paperwork. One of the things, and I think the process is better now, and Jennifer, maybe you can comment on this, but one of the things that we used to do is we would put the loan number on each page of all of the paperwork, because there was so many different people working the file that sometimes the paperwork would get mixed up and they'd lose documents. So I don't think it hurts certainly to put the loan number on each document you send them. But I do think just because of the system and the files now that probably it's a little more accurate. Kind of like SkySlope, you know how you can send an email and it's to that particular file only. I think the banks have that set up for these.
Yeah, they asked me to reference that loan number on every email
Okay.
for that reason. So it's kind of within the email parameters rather than every single document nowadays.
Yeah. And it's really important. And you have to think about the first person at the bank that's getting this file, literally their job is to make sure that each check mark is checked and the documents have been submitted. It's not going to go up the chain in the bank until these documents are done. So you really want to help and work with the homeowner to make sure that they're done and complete. Once you've submitted the paperwork, they're willing to work with you in a short sale. You really just have to stay on them because it's a process. And Jennifer, I think you can probably talk a little bit about just how long it takes from the time you first made the first phone call with them until they said, all right, these guys qualify for a short sale.
Yeah, this has been a long one. You did prepare me for it could go smoothly or it could go for many months, and this has been a many months endeavor. I listed the property before it was completely in short sale back in the end of June. And then I believe we came into short sale situation like September, where we actually did the hardship letter. We got approval. I had third party authorization and all of that. So it would be the fall. So we've been working for five months or so in the short sale process.
Yeah. And then, you know, Jennifer's has homeowners and liens and other, I mean, the cleanest one would be just one loan, one cooperative loaner, one homeowner that's really on the ball and's got the paperwork in time and has been in front of it. But typically that's not the case. You know, life has happened to these people and there's just other things going on in their life, and it is going to be a bit of a challenge. Important to note that no party can be related, and the lenders will not accept, you can't, the purchaser can't be related. You can't be related to them, and you're going to have to note in there that it's an arm's length transaction. Nobody's related. Okay. Any questions on just getting to the point of listing the property? So now you have a buyer you're working, we can talk about a buyer's agent, and you find a home in the multiple that is stated that it's a short sale. I think one, having that conversation with your client is important, if they're even willing to go through the hoops. And the reason they would be is one, either the home is unique and just fits what they're doing, or two, the price just makes sense to them. They're willing to kind of go through this process because you know, it just financially is a good deal for them. So one of the things as a buyer's agent that you would want to do, and so your clients are interested in this home, it's a short sale. There's a lot of questions to ask that listing agent to find out where are they in this process. Has the paperwork been done? Do they qualify? Does the seller qualify as a true hardship? Where are the timelines? Has a foreclosure also been started on this property? Are there IRS liens? Sometimes there will be IRS liens, which is going to complicate this property. So here are some of the questions to ask. But the biggest thing is, where are they in the foreclosure process or the short sale process? Has the short sale been approved by the lender? And if they has, then all of the paperwork, all of the hoops have been complied with. And then, are there other loans sometime or other offers? Often a bank will want, as one offer comes in, until it's approved or accepted, they're going to want to accept other offers. They're going to want you to bring them other offers. Sometimes the bank will set the price. Here's our bottom line, that we won't take less than this. And they will tell you what their bottom line is. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't submit less, and maybe it's a cash offer, maybe it's a quick close, maybe there's something in it that will change their mind. But sometimes they will tell you, hey, here's where we're at. This is our bottom line. If there are more than one loan, it's going to complicate greatly, because the first lender dictates what the other lenders will receive, and it's not a lot of money. And sometimes it's 1,000. I think this most that the second will be able to receive is 6,000. So it will just complicate the deal. So have that conversation with your buyer. Have a conversation with the listing agent, find out as much of the process of where they are in the short sale. You will use the same contracts in the MLS. There is MLS, there is a short sale addendum. And I think the biggest thing for the short sale addendum is you need to select computation of time. Is the computation of time going to be mutual acceptance between you and the seller? Or is it going to be once the lender has approved your offer, accepted your offer? And so, again, it's negotiable. It's up to you. It's up to your buyer and, of course, the lender. But you're going to want to do a home inspection. You're going to have to pay for an appraisal. Do you do that up front, trying to make your offer more enticing, not knowing if the short sale is even going to go through? And so that, you'll just address that in the short sale addendum. Another thing that is possible that adds a little bit of complexity, but it also is an option for your clients. Say there's a lot of work in the home that needs to be done, but yet your clients are okay with that because the price is so good. There are what's called 203K rehab loans that they will loan based on, you'll let you purchase the home in its current condition. And then they have, with the bids that you've provided or the buyers provided, they'll hold that in escrow for the contractors to come in and fix up the home. So it's part of your loan. And so it is a little bit more complicated. I have where your clients can learn a little bit more about that. But I would say if everything fits the home, the location, and there's just dry rot repairs that really need to be done before they could move in or live in the home, or maybe it's not even on a conventional loan, they can't get a loan on it, there is something called a 203K rehab loan.
Randy, I have a question. On the 203K rehab loan, is there a threshold? Have they gone up?
There's a threshold, and there's a streamline, and then I'm not sure what it's called, but one is, it's a dollar amount and it's not a lot of money. Maybe it just needs carpet or countertops or something that's more cosmetic, but you have the ability to add that to your loan instead of doing it out of pocket. And then there's an actual rehab where you're going to have to fix a roof, or you're going to have to remodel a bathroom that's got dry rot or mold or something to that extent. And then that's a more significant loan.
Would this be a good thing for me to, because the home I'm selling was soiled by animals really badly. And so it might be a good thing for me to suggest to the buyer's agent?
It might be, yes, for sure. Because it is a way for you to roll that repair work into the home.
Okay. So that's a loan that would kind of go secondarily into, it's a loan that the buyer.
It is one loan. It is just so it's not like a first and a second. It's one loan. So what they do is they'll say, okay, here's the market value as is.
Mhm.
Then they'll look at, okay, here's the repairs that are needed. And then they will ask the appraiser, what is the home's value based on these things being repaired, these things being fixed? And then they'll make the loan based on after repair value, because they're going to hold that money back to make sure the contractor gets paid.
And there are specific contractors that can do 203K rehab. They have to go through classes. I actually have a good one if anybody ever needs one.
Good to know. Okay.
And some lenders, because it is on their end a lot of work, more work, some lenders won't do them. So you do want to talk to, somebody who, and then there's those lenders, it's like anything that's kind of their specialty, their niche, and they do more of them. But I think it's certainly, especially a lot of times in a foreclosure or a short sale, that people have been in hardship, right? They don't have the money to fix things that have been deferred. And especially if it's a leaky roof or something to do with, a bathtub or a toilet where it's leaking over time, it can be an extensive remodel that they don't have. And a new homeowner doesn't have the cash to do that before they move in. Okay, so you've made an offer. Again, the offer is between the buyer and the seller. You have to come to an agreement first. So that negotiation is between the buyer and seller, and then the offer gets submitted to the lender. Sometimes the lender will ask you to submit it just in email form. Sometimes they have what's called their process is Equator, which is, you kind of think of it as SkySlope in a way for mortgage lenders. But either way, they're going to tell you how to submit the offer. One thing that if you're dealing with somebody constantly as a processor, you're going back and forth, and they give you a separate email, I would certainly send that offer to that email, but keep the person that you've been communicating, whoever is the processor, your rep for the lender, I would also CC it to them, and then just make sure you get confirmation. Again, you're going to want to make sure that on the offer, there's a statement that this is an arm's length transaction, and parties are not related. You do, as the listing agent, and we can go back as the listing agent, you're going to want to justify the offer as best you can. So you might want to do another market update. You might want to certainly show the history of how long it's been on the market, the price drops, the time on the market for each price drop. You might give a printout of agent feedback, so they can see what other agents are saying. Just substantiate the offer as best you can and sell the offer. You're going to want to submit a net sheet so the lender can see what their bottom line is. I would use your escrow company to create that. You can use the RMLS has a net sheet, but you just want to make sure all the different fees, like in Jennifer's case, there's a lot of other fees that people are asking for. If you haven't been able to negotiate them, if you have been able to negotiate them down, you want to put on the net sheet what those new fees are that they've agreed to, along with their written agreement to those lower fees. One of the things that, and this is the FHA guidelines as far as pricing and what they're willing to accept, is it says here in the first 30 days that they'll accept 88% of appraised fair market value. And then as time goes on, they'll take a little bit less and a little bit less. And again, that doesn't mean you can't submit a lower offer and try to substantiate that. Maybe the market's changed. Maybe it's been a while since they've had a BPO. Any questions on that? And then once it's submitted, you just really have to stay on them. You just have to communicate. They're supposed to acknowledge, I think they give you as much time as 30 days. No, Jennifer, you've submitted an offer. Have they given you an idea of when they may accept or counter that offer?
So what I got yesterday and then again this morning, the underwriter from the bank that I've been working with this gentleman for several months. So he sent me an email yesterday in response to the offer that I submitted on Saturday. And he says, FHA sells property as is. FHA also requires the property listing to be the amount of the appraisal. So when I sent him a listing agreement that showed the new price, or he needed to see that old, the original listing agreement, that it's my understanding, so he could see that, hey, originally we listed this for $349 and the appraised amount is $317. So I'm providing that for him today. He said the ATP shows the marketing period of HUD accepting a certain percentage for the net, which is what we just talked about, the 88, 86, and 84%. So my offer is a little below 84%. It's around 80 or so without being able to pay any of those assessments or different things. So that's kind of the, I did the seller net sheet that showed, hey, the bank would pay this. We're just asking, that they would pay that 30,000. And so that's kind of where we're at now.
Yeah. And it will be interesting because have you talked to the homeowners association?
I have not.
And it certainly
My client spoke to them when we started this, and they said they will not accept less than full payment.
yeah. And so their next, and then that's all negotiations, right?
Right.
Because then I would say, well, how much are you going to get if we file bankruptcy or let it go to foreclosure?
Right.
And so.
Well, I guess what I'm wondering with that too, and this has been my question, I haven't really had it answered yet, is does that go on the client, like the sellers? Do they file a judgment against the seller for that? I'm assuming they do.
I don't know. I
don't know either.
I think that they very well probably could.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they can, then again, it's the homeowner's like, well, do we take 5,000 instead of 30, or do we really think that we can just collect someday against this
Someday we're going to get that 30,000.
Yeah.
And they may be committed to that based on the personalities involved. But again, I don't know. I guess it all comes down to we're dealing with different people in different situations. And all we can do, as you've said, is ask. And it depends on what they're willing, how far they're willing to push. And so we just kind of are overcoming one obstacle at a time.
Yeah. And I think
that's what it is.
Yeah. And I think, not to scare you, because I do think there's a market here for you as a listing agent. there's opportunity, and there's certainly opportunity to be able to help people. But at the end of the day, Jennifer could have spent 6 months on this and this deal not go together.
Yeah.
And Jennifer not get paid $1.
Yeah.
And so it's just important going into this to know these, one, do not discount your commission. You're going to spend more time and energy on this in any listing that you'll do. You know, you're providing a great value and help to somebody that's truly going through a financial, just a hard time. But at the end of the day, this can blow up and you could be, and where you're not compensated for it. So
I'll tell you just from experience from this experience that of, when did we talk about it? A month or two ago, I called Randy and I was like, okay, explain this deed in lieu of foreclosure to me, because I do not feel like there's any way to move forward. I don't know how to help these people anymore. There's no traffic, there's no interest, I'm only getting negative feedback. And so that's when we began to lower the price, and which I probably could have done much earlier, but again, first experience, didn't really, probably not knowing what I'm doing. So that's why it's so good that everybody's doing this now, because you get a better idea. I didn't even know the questions to ask, to be quite honest, and when you don't know what questions to ask, it's difficult to know where to go. But dropping the price was a very good solution, and that's what got us to here. So even if there's things that need to be overcome, it's still, I don't think it's a dead deal. I think we can still chip away at it. So that's what we're doing.
good. And, maybe in hindsight or a lesson learned is that be okay marking that price under market, because
Right.
there has to be a reason a buyer is going to put up with all this, right? Or a buyer's agent's going to recommend that there's an option or, an in game, because this buyer is waiting now and they may not be able to buy this home.
Right. Well,
And
in this situation, the buyer, basically what they offered is what they can afford, and there's not a lot in the market. So
right.
to them, it's worth it.
Sure. Yeah.
It's kind of their one only shot in this market. So
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And then be sure when they do accept, the lender is going to send an acceptance letter. Read that very carefully, have your clients read it very carefully, that it does show that it's non-recourse. And very often they will, because of the ramifications of people destroying homes back in 2008 through 12, they will give an incentive to leave the home to help them move out and keep the home. They used to call it broom swept clean. It doesn't have to be immaculate, but they just want the home to be not destroyed. And so they will give some type of incentive often. It certainly doesn't hurt to ask. But yeah, thanks, Jennifer, because I think real time going through one puts things really in perspective.
And thank you for all your help.
Yeah. No,
Randy's been an amazing resource.
Yeah, absolutely. And here I put together, and just going through this, if you guys can, if that's linkable for you guys, if not, I can send it out. But I just put a document together that has some resources for you and for your clients that will help them and help you. Some samples of just workout sheets and that type of thing for a short sale.
Also, for everybody afterwards too, I'm going to put this on YouTube so you can always go back to it. And underneath the YouTube, I'll put all the links that Randy put in there too, so it's easy to access.
Thanks, Janine, for putting this together. It, I don't know, I have a passion for it. I like the ability to help people. I think there's opportunity in these, but you just have to know that it's a different market. It's certainly you're going to spend more time in that. If you are interested, and it's like, this is a niche, this is something that I would like to pursue, you can get a list of people that are in financial hardship where they have been sent a notice of default, meaning they're behind in their payments. So either for whatever reason, they haven't talked to a counselor yet, they haven't communicated with the lender, so the lender has started the process. And so that is public record, and investors will do any of or all, knock on their doors, call them. I send letters and postcards, but you can do any or all. And there's also opportunity. Some people just want out, literally, and this is for another conversation, but I've had homeowners literally hand me their keys and say, I'm not coming back to this home, and literally hand me their keys to their home. So as an investment property, there's opportunity as well. I don't know, Janine, have you looked at the chats?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Everything's
Okay.
answered.
Yeah.
This will be wonderful too, also because right now, if we're not in a short sale, we can always go back to this too. And it's just a great resource with a lot of good information.
I
Yes.
hate Jen's had to go through this, but it's been a learning experience because last time there was any conversations about short sale, it was like 2009. So, and she's like asking me questions like, well, but this has been very helpful. So thank you. Thank you,
You're
Jen,
so-
for trudging through it and Brent
Yes.
sharing.
Yes. That's it's been really helpful. And like I said, Ruth is doing one. Hers is less complicated. It's just one lender, and it's a home without homeowner association. But still, there's she has multiple offers, and same thing. They're trying to go through the process. So there is on the other side, one that's a little bit easier. She listed, but she had, I think, some just there wasn't as many hurdles, that there was one owner that so you just had one person to deal with as far as the seller, and then I have another agent that's looking at it from a buyer's perspective. So they are starting to show up. You will run across them. All right. Any other
Okay, I'll
questions?
stop the recording.
Yeah.